I'm beginning to think that Thunderfoot isn't actually angry about feminism. He's just angry. Take, for example, his brief stint on the Free Thought Blogs website. His blogs were all, literally all, about how sexual harassment at science conferences isn't a big deal. Now first let me say, from a strategically point of view, sexual harassment at conferences really is a non-issue, and if reading that has just pushed some buttons, I want you to calmly unplug those emotions and put them in a box, then take a deep breath, relax, and read the rest of this reasoned argument. It's not even grammatically correct! Star, all caps, this really isn't a big problem, Star! What? Wait, why is he also using bold text? Is it... My god, he writes essays the way he edits his videos. I hope his papers aren't like this. So why the 50% drop of female attendance? Oh, well, maybe it has something to do with the obnoxious fucking wankers running around saying, oh, sexual harassment isn't a big deal. You know? Personally, that would make me feel a little bit unsafe. Put simply, talking about sexual harassment can sometimes be a bigger problem than sexual... Oh my god! Do not go to a conference with this man! It's such a not a big problem that it's literally all he talked about. It's not a big problem. 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 Free Thought Blogs eventually got sick of him, because when given a free platform to communicate, he used it simply to communicate that those who don't think like him about the subject are stupid and should stop talking because it's not a big deal. He didn't use it to talk about what he wanted to talk about, only to talk about how other people were talking too much about something else. Sexual harassment at conferences is trivial, and let me tell you why some more. Everyone who disagreed with his methodology, or bizarre obsession with making this one point over and over and over, was accused of groupthink or strawmanning him. He claimed that any measures taken to reduce sexual harassment would actually stop quote-unquote fun, which, if it was consensual, would still happen. And to prove he was right, he put up a poll on one of his videos asking people who they thought was right. Should a conference be trying to police my spelling? The answer is yes. And to everyone's surprise, Thunderfoot's followers mostly agreed with Thunderfoot. Now that's a rational way of determining who's right. Except if you know what sample bias is, but whatever. None of these free thought bloggers were focusing on the real issues, like how this woman is wrong about video games. Real scientists toil in obscurity for years, or even decades, doing research in the hopes that they will find something useful to mankind's collective knowledge. They don't sit on the internet and put out a video every week calling a woman they don't like a bitch.
It's a damn sight easier to be a critic than a creator.
Which is why, since he's busy criticising the new Ghostbusters, I therefore expect him to make his own Ghostbusters reboot. I expect it'll be on my desk by Monday. Just kidding, that would be stupid. Criticism is judged by how accurate it is, not how much stuff that person has made, or whether they went out and made a hypothetical game they pitched. If someone tweets an opinion about a video game, that person can be right or wrong or somewhere in the middle. It doesn't matter if they're Cliff Bleszinski, Max Schreck, or a literal baby, they can still be right. This is the sort of bullshit argumentative tactic a creationist like Cy Ten Brugengate would use, but if someone uses it to argue against feminism, suddenly they're the rational one. I also really don't see an inherently feminist message in having an all-female cast. This sudden perception of an agenda only when the characters are non-white or non-male is kind of weird to me. When a film has white men in it, there's no message, it's just normal, it's a normal film. How can it have an agenda? They look like me. But if you do something as innocuous as flip the sex of a character, suddenly it's trying to force-feed me a message. This is all normal, but why is she here? This issue brings us, inexorably, back to Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is a film partially about how to be rational in a world you don't quite understand. And it has a lot to say about gender relationships too. Ironically, Ghostbusters has always been pretty feminist. One thing I really like is that none of the three main characters are fully prepared for a relationship with a woman. Egon is completely flabbergasted by them, especially when getting hit on.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Ray is too busy dreaming about getting blown by a ghost or making gay subtext.
You gotta try this pole!
And Venkman is too much of a shitty pickup artist and has a weird mistrust of women's accounts of their encounters with ghosts, especially if they're unattractive.
Have you or any member of your family ever been diagnosed schizophrenic, mentally incompetent? Are you, Alice, menstruating right now?
You think you've seen a ghost? Well, I don't believe in ghosts at this point in the story, so you must be on your period or insane. Wow, I wonder which character Thunderfoot identifies with. It's only when all three main characters' collective good qualities are combined, along with the help of some guy they hired, that they can successfully make 'em hard. And contend with the existential horror represented by Gozer. Gozer is defeated by having all these separate caricatures of different aspects of the human psyche, the hyper-rational, the childlike, the hard worker, the wanker, working together to form a complete person. You can only really understand people or have a relationship once you achieve emotional intelligence by incorporating all of these things into yourself. These themes are explored even more literally in Ghostbusters 2, where the Ghostbusters save the day by working together to physically pilot a collective body. This is a really good scene. I think Ghostbusters 2 is really underrated. It's also philosophically quite accurate. There are 4 little Ghostbusters inside your head right now, and that's a scientific fact. So like I said, Ghostbusters has always had a lot of feminist ideas presented in its own way. You couldn't really push those themes any further. It's why there didn't need to be a third one. Once you have 4 men admit their weaknesses and enlist the help of a woman to solve their problems, you can't really go any further than that. The only real addition you could make is by flipping the genders of the main characters and rebooting it completely and setting it in the present. The new film could always not be funny or fail to explore these themes successfully, but nothing about this premise is an inherent artistic tragedy. But what does Thunderfoot care about the themes of Ghostbusters? He doesn't even really talk about them. He's too busy talking about Anita Sarkeesian some more. He doesn't even care that when he talks about the original Ghostbusters, he's actually showing a scene from Ghostbusters 2. The actual content of the films doesn't matter to him. It's completely vestigial to the act of complaining that women want him to respect their vaginas.